What is going on, gang? This is the X-Men Featurette channel. I'm Chris, and I have a TGIX review for you. Skipped a week because been working a lot. So here we are with a Charles Bronson movie. This is one that I had not seen previously. This was my first time watch. This is Breakheart Pass, a Kino Lorber release. They sent this to me for review, so thanks, Kino Lorber. I love Westerns, and if you see this glorious cover right here, we have Charles Bronson getting kicked off of, it's obviously a train because there's a track, and this is, you know, a train car. But I don't know why every time I see this, I just think that it's like an outpost or like a stand or something, like a tower. It's what I see, even though it's clearly a train. This is a 1975 flick. It's directed by Tom Gries, and it was written by Alistair MacLean, who also did, very well known for writing Where Eagles Dare, which was a Iron Maiden track on their Peace of Mind album. So that's what I knew Where Eagles Dare from. But Alistair MacLean also wrote Breakheart Pass, which became this flick. We all know, like, Charles Bronson's been in so many Westerns. I have not seen many of his Westerns, like maybe Chato's Land, I don't know. There's so many that I need to watch yet. But he stars in this movie. He plays a badass, you know, himself. And this is one of the 15 or so movies that he did with his second wife, Jill Ireland. So that's pretty cool. They have a dynamic going on here. Richard Crenna and Charles Durning are in this, so that's pretty cool. There's a nice cast to this movie. So here's a spoiler-free plot summary. The music to this movie, it was really, really good. It was composed by Jerry Goldsmith, and there was a soundtrack, but it's long out of print like every other soundtrack. The opening credits are like this really weird, like, line type. It almost looks like the tracking feature on like a VHS. But it's this weird lines with like the words and everything, and then it's just like some landscape photography. It's kind of like a slow intro to the movie. The movie starts in this town that is it's obviously in the Northwest. This was all filmed in Idaho, I believe, like northern Idaho. But I get the feeling that this is supposed to be like a gold rush town. So it's in like a little settlement named Myrtle, and there's a steam engine that is refilling a whistle station or something. It's refilling water or something. There are no civilians on this train, or so we're told, and there's an army. This train is full of soldiers that are going to like provide backup at some fort, and I guess it's implied that there is some sort of trouble at the fort and they need they need help. As they're wandering around this encampment of Myrtle, we learn that 2 of the soldiers have gone missing. They're looking for them and they don't want to leave them behind, but they're on a schedule. They got to get to this fort. So we go to this, like, I guess it's supposed to be like a bar, like a little, it's really like a shack, and there's like a prostitute there and stuff. I'm like, well, this is kind of weird. I thought that it was all going to take place like in this town, and in this weird little tavern we meet Charles Bronson. He wanders in, sits down, and is playing poker with this, you know, of course they're playing poker. What else do they do in the 1800s? We learn that his name is John Deacon. We see his name on a wanted poster, and I guess that there's like a marshal, and he says, hey, you're wanted for embezzlement and fraud, and like lists off this like really bad rap sheet that Charles Bronson has. John Deacon, I guess is his name, John Deacon. So he's like, well, I'm taking you with me to the fort. I guess it's kind of unclear why he's taking him to the fort with him. I guess because he has to turn him in. But either way, he's like, well, you're my ticket to the fort. And he's going there now, I guess. Whenever he's playing poker, one of the charges on his long list of charges is gambling, fraud, or something like that. As he's playing poker, like, this dude gets mad that he, I guess, you know, pulled a fast one. He had, like, played the old, card up the sleeve trick, I think. The guy, like, punches Charles Bronson in the face and kind of, like, lays him out. And I think that his, like, famous line from this is, I'm not a man of violence, you know, I'm not a violent man. So that's all we know about him. John Deacon says that he was previously a professor of medicine at the University of Iowa, I think. And I'm like, well, okay, he's a doctor. That's going to come into play in the future. So they end up leaving Myrtle without the two soldiers. They can't find them. While we're on the train, we learn that there is a governor, like the governor is actually on the train, and he's accompanied by a young lady who is played by Jill Ireland, and her name is Marika. And while they're all together in this car, John Deacon's kind of sitting on the floor, you know, because he's apprehended. And they're all talking, and they're like, well, I guess we can tell everyone that we're not, you know, going here to offer support for like any conflict. We're actually going to this fort because there's a diphtheria epidemic. Marika is going to meet up with her father, so now she's all freaked out because she's like, oh my god, you're taking us to this place that is infested with diphtheria. Is my father okay? Like, is he alive? What's going on? Like, so everyone's totally freaked out now, and they're like, how dare you bring us all, you know, we're all going to catch diphtheria and die. And this is where John Deacon's medical knowledge comes in, because he's like, you know, there was a like a medical professional on the train, and he's like, oh, I'm immune to diphtheria. John Deacon asks the medic, like, oh, where did you get diphtheria? And he says, oh, Mexico a couple years ago, or something like that. And right off the bat, like, you can tell, like, by John Deacon's response that that was not the correct answer. And we know from this point that there's something fishy going on. So this is like, you know, it's set in the late 1800s, and they use telegraph a lot. So they have to, like, take breaks every day at a specific time to telegraph the fort and stay in constant communication with them. We learn they think that a notorious, like, criminal named Calhoun has been apprehended, but the scene kind of cuts to the fort, and we see the people on the other end receiving the transmission, and it is not who they thought. It was not the army, it was Calhoun. So this guy that they think has been apprehended is actually he's taken over the fort, and he is in control of it, and he has this train full of soldiers basically coming into a trap. Once the plot gets to this point, there are a lot of kills. And it's kind of interesting because, you know, considering for such a limited cast, you only have so many people on a train. It's only like, you know, there's only like 7 train cars or something. And there are a lot of kills. Since John Deacon was a medical professor, he's able to ID the cause of death. And then we learn that there's a killer on board. So, you know, and then it's like a whodunit. There's a lot of really strange deaths. Like, there's a guy that falls off the train and down this, like, trellis type bridge thing. I will say, this scene that you see here where he's, like, hanging on from the top of the train, that is not even the climax of the movie. That is a great fight scene. I think it's, like, a requirement for any train movie. And it was not even the climax of the movie. It was a great scene. But it kind of even builds from that point. The story starts kind of slow, but once we get on the train and things start literally moving, the story picks up pace really fast. So there's a really great scene whenever John Deacon is tied up in the car, and we see him. He just was up cutting the ropes that were binding his hands together, and then he hears somebody coming, so he goes and acts like he's still tied up. And it happened to be Marika. And then he's like, oh, can you untie me? And she's like, okay, I'll untie your legs. And then immediately after, he, like, shows her that his hands are untied, and she's like, oh, you know, you lied to me. And he's like, well, yeah, I'm a fraud and cheat. Like, why wouldn't I be a liar? And that was interesting because I was thinking that he was going to appear trustworthy. Like, I thought that he was going to be, like, a very trustworthy character. Because you never know, you know, in his various roles, like, you never know. He's usually like the vigilante type that's like a good guy deep down, but they serve cold hard justice. And in this one, you're kind of like, I don't know, are you really a character that can't be trusted? So from that point on, Marika has her reservations about him. Like, you know, you can tell that there's, like, a tension there. I don't think they're supposed to be, but I think it's just because they're married. There was also the chef and the chef's assistant, which the chef and John Deacon had a very, very interesting interaction. He came out from one of these cars, and the chef's like, oh, do you want a cup of coffee? And it was just like so weird. He kind of like side-eyed him while he got it, and then Charles Bronson's like, thanks for the coffee, and walks away. And I'm just like, what's going on with this guy? Like, their interaction was just very bizarre. So that was really interesting. He's a character that adds a lot of mystique to the movie. Marika and the governor obviously stand out because they're not in the army. Basically, everybody else on the train is. I don't recall exactly what Charles Durning's character's purpose was. He was there, but he wasn't part of the army, I don't believe. So I'm not sure what his business was there. But he was great. You know, he's like, this was in 1975, and he's just like perpetually old. But he added a lot of character to the movie. There is a big surprise reveal in this movie that I didn't see coming, so I don't want to spoil that. So I'm not going to say anything else about the plot. If you haven't seen this and you're going to watch it, don't look up anything about the movie or any trailers or anything, because so much gets spoiled if you read anything. I went in not knowing anything, and it was a really cool little surprise. So that was really fun. So don't spoil that for yourself. I mentioned this was filmed in northern Idaho. So I think Wikipedia has like the financials and stuff. So they said that they rented the train for $500,000, which translates into about 2.6 million today, which is really interesting because I really didn't think that a lot of the photography was like real. I thought that it might have been a set. I didn't realize that all of it was an actual real train. About like 95% of this movie takes place on the train itself. I think we've all seen movies that take place on trains. Probably like Train to Busan is my favorite that I can think of. And it's interesting how they just get creative with the space that they're in. And, you know, that's why I said we always have like the rooftop fight that has to break out pretty much. That's like a necessity. What's really cool is that this takes place on a steam engine, which, you know, you don't see too much of that anymore. So that was pretty interesting. Everything about the train cars and how they're connected and how they're designed and how, you know, they're decorated and everything just looked very, very good. So to me, it looked historically accurate. I thought that it looked really good. There's a lot of snow in this movie, like the scenery outside of the train and what you see as, you know, the scenery is going by. There's a lot of snow, so that's pretty cool. All of the landscapes and everything were real. I don't know. I guess I just thought that it seemed like too big of a budget for this movie. The budget was actually $6 million, which would be $31 million today. Of the $6 million budget, Charles Bronson got $1 million. So he was paid 1/6 of the budget. That's pretty nuts. So even though they spent $31 million 2022 dollars, the box office would have been about 11 million today. So the box office was 2.1 million in 1975, and it was a failure. I guess it was not good. I guess that explains why I enjoyed it. So let's take a gander at this physical release. We have a slip. Kino gave it the slip treatment. We have the same artwork on the inside. Then we have a different artwork that we can, you know, I'm gonna flip that. And there you have it. How do you like that? So what do we have here? We have Charles Bronson shooting a gun, and there's a dude laying there in the snow. It's pretty cool. There's a couple snippets from the movie on the back. And let's just give you a quick little pan over what we have here. So the special features, we do have an audio commentary with film historians Howard S. Berger, Steve Mitchell, and Nathaniel Thompson. And I know that for sure Howard Berger and Nathaniel Thompson, I recall having done other commentaries for Kino. So they always do a great job. I haven't listened to this one yet, but I am going to. And then the theatrical trailer, which I said do not watch until you have seen this. So that's what we have. We have a 1975 flick that was, it's 95 minutes. It was given the high definition treatment and the slipcover treatment by Kino Lorber. So that's what I'm going to submit to you for my review of Breakheart Pass. I will leave it as mysterious as John Deacon himself. I hope you give this Western murder mystery a chance, because it was seriously a lot of fun. I dig westerns and I dig mystery flicks, and this has my boy Charles Bronson, so you know that I dug it. If you have seen this, or you are going to see it, or you have read the book, you know, leave me a comment, because that's why I did this. And I hope that you come around next week and see what we post. Big thanks again to Kino for sending that to me for review. Thanks to you for watching my video on it, and I will see you next time.